What's going on, people? Nate Hornung here with Betting News, better known online as Shaggy_bets. I'm here with my man Scooby in the background, as you can see, and we're here to talk to you about the Big Ten, the Big Ten Conference for this upcoming college football season. Now, we already did talk about the SEC, so you can watch that video on our channel. But the Big Ten has really been the powerhouse of college football for the past 2 seasons at least, with back-to-back champions in the undefeated Michigan Wolverines in 2023, followed by the Ohio State Buckeyes winning last year with just one loss on their record coming in conference play to the Oregon Ducks out in Eugene. Will Ohio State be on top of the college football ladder this football season as well, or is someone else going to dethrone them? Someone might do so in the Big Ten. So let's get into this conference, specifically talking about the Big Ten. We're going to start by looking at just the overall odds for Big Ten schools to win the college football playoff. And as you can see up top there, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes listed at plus 650. Now they are tied with Georgia for second overall on the odds boards to win the entire national championship. But I got my eye on a couple other teams moving down the list here in the Big Ten. The Penn State Nittany Lions, you can find them at 7-1 on Bet Online, as well as the Oregon Ducks at plus 1,100, the Michigan Wolverines at 33-1, and the USC Trojans at 66-1. After those 5, the drop-off is significant. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, Indiana Hoosiers, they're both priced at 125-1. The Iowa Hawkeyes and the Illinois Fighting Illini, they're both 150-1. The list goes on and on. But what about just to make the college football playoff? There are 3 teams with negative odds to just make the 12-team college football playoff. I'm looking at those top 3 in the conference. The Ohio State Buckeyes at minus 400, Penn State, the Nittany Lions at minus 275, and the Oregon Ducks at minus 260, just to make the college football playoff. Not necessarily win the whole thing, not necessarily even win the conference and win the Big Ten, but just to sneak in the college football playoff. All 3 of those teams with negative odds. Going down the list, you've got Michigan at plus 210 to make the 12-team playoff, USC at plus 475, and then both Indiana and Illinois priced at plus 550. I'm not sure who can do it, but let's talk about who might win this conference. Ohio State does have the best odds to win the Big Ten at plus 200 at Bet Online, followed by Penn State at plus 240 and Oregon at plus 275 right behind them. Then there is that fall off we've been talking about. Michigan at plus 750, USC at 16-1, Indiana at 28-1, Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois all at 33-1, and Washington at plus 6,000. It might be a little top heavy in the Big Ten this conference season. Those top 3, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon, they really are going to be the top 3 in this conference. They're going to be tough to beat. And again, after that, we are going to have a solid gap between the next few teams. But let's get into it. Let's get into some team previews and talk about what we might like as far as picks and predictions go in this Big Ten conference. We'll start with my projection for the top 10 in this conference, starting at my projected number 10 finisher in the Big Ten. We're going with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Their mundane offense did double their scoring last year, but will that be enough in a stacked conference? I'm not sure. Mark Gronowski comes over from the FCS level all the way up to the Big Ten, all the way up to a Power 4, and arguably the best conference in college football. He certainly has the arm to bring at least a little excitement to this offense, but it's still Iowa. They're going to rely heavily on defense. Their schedule is favorable. They do get to avoid teams like Ohio State, Michigan, and Illinois, but that win total at 7.5 is too sweaty for me, so I'll be avoiding that altogether. At number 9, we've got the Washington Huskies. They bring back Demon Williams. He's ready to lead the Huskies. He alongside upperclassman running back Jonah Coleman and wide receiver Denzel Boston. They did add another pass catcher from Penn State. Omari Evans caught 415 yards and 5 touchdowns last season for the Nittany Lions. The schedule's tough, but it is favorable for the Huskies. They do have to play Ohio State, Oregon, and Illinois, some of the best teams in this conference, but they get to host all of them, forcing a couple of Eastern teams to really travel a few time zones to face the Huskies out in Washington. But they do have to go to the Big House to face Michigan, which will be a tough battle. I'm going to hold off on their win total as well. If you lose those 4 strongest matchups, the ones listed above, and handle business elsewhere, that does put you at 8-4 over that 7.5 total, but I'm not going to bet on them being perfect regardless of those 4 toughest matchups. So I'll avoid that for the Washington Huskies. Coming in at number 8, we got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Not much to say about them other than Dylan Raiola. I liked what we saw from him last season as a true freshman, back and ready to lead the Cornhuskers in Lincoln this season. He added a couple of nice pass catchers in Dane Key. Dane Key coming over from Kentucky. He led the Wildcats in receiving yards the past 2 seasons, caught 40-plus passes for at least 600 yards in those past 2 seasons. True freshman Niza Hunter also caught 40 passes for 578 yards and 5 touchdowns in California last season. He's going to come over and help Dylan Raiola in that wide receiving core. So Nebraska could be frisky, I think, in the Big Ten, but they're still going to be bottom half of the conference. Next up, the new kids on the block, the Cinderella story from last year, the number 7 Indiana Hoosiers. I think they come back down to earth. Fernando Mendoza comes over to play QB for the Hoosiers, coming over from Cal, but you're going to come back down to earth this season if you're the Indiana Hoosiers. Last season was just too good to be true. You made the playoff. Congratulations, flowers. I'll give you flowers where flowers are due. But this season is going to be tough. They do avoid Ohio State, Michigan, and USC, but they will have to play Oregon and Penn State on the road. That'll be tough for the Indiana Hoosiers. Next up at number 6, I've got the Michigan Wolverines, led by Bryce Underwood, true freshman, set to lead this team. They're going to be tested early in week 2. They go to Norman to face a very, very frisky Oklahoma Sooners team of the SEC, who's very hungry for a solid season. The Wolverines then do open up play in the Big Ten, going to Lincoln to face the Huskers, and they have to go to USC later in the season. But that's about it, other than closing out the season hosting Ohio State. Their win total is 9.5, heavily juiced to the under at -175. I do think they end up right at 9 wins. It is a easier schedule for the Wolverines, but you got a lot of question marks with Bryce Underwood, that true freshman coming in. Is he going to be able to lead this team and give them the offensive production they need to make a splash in the Big Ten? I'm not convinced. Next up at number 5, I got the USC Trojans. Jaden Mavia has taken over for the Trojans after he took over for Miller Moss last season. He won 3 of 4 games in which he started, only lost to the eventual national runner-ups Notre Dame. He still put up 35 points against the Irish defense in that game. He's got a talented receiving core. They added the number 1 JUCO running back in Wayman Jones as well, coming from Hutchinson Community College. However, it's not going to matter if the offensive line does not play better. They're also going to need a lot of help defensively for the Trojans, who can't afford to give up 30-plus points again. But I think the offense could be frisky. At 16-1 to win the conference, they're worth maybe a little bit of fun money. I also do like them to sneak into the college football playoff for a good price as well. Can find that about 5-1. Another team I'm really high on is the number 4 Illinois Fighting Illini. I know other teams and other coaches are high on them as well, coming in at the number 12 in the preseason coaches poll just today, actually. But I really like Illinois. I really like their schedule. They play 3 fairly easy non-conference games, possibly having a small test against Duke. But as far as Big Ten play goes, you avoid Oregon, you avoid Michigan, you avoid Nebraska, and you get to host both Ohio State and USC, 2 of their toughest games on the schedule. Going to Washington could be tough, but they will be coming off a bye week, making that travel out west. So I've got faith in them there. If they can live up to the task and handle business, I think Illinois comes away with 9 wins, which is why I booked their win total over 8.5 for +150. Do your line shopping, because I do think this is worth it with this price at +150. I want that juice if I'm going to get a 9-3 season from the Fighting Illini. But they returned most of their offensive production last season. Luke Altmaier obviously set to lead them at QB. And they also add wide receiver Hudson Clement, coming from the West Virginia Mountaineers, had 9 touchdowns in the past 2 years, going for 51 catches and 741 yards last season. But let's get to the top 3, starting with number 3, the Oregon Ducks. They won the Big Ten in their first season. Dan Lanning, an ultimate motivator. Love that guy as a head coach, but they got life without Dylan Gabriel now. Dante Moore comes in. He is set to be the quarterback of Oregon. They brought in a very good transfer and running back in Mekhi Hughes. In 2 seasons with Tulane, Moore went for 1,378 yards and 1,400 yards the next season, totaling 24 touchdowns in 2 seasons, adding about 200 yards receiving from the backfield as well as an every down back. They have a very, very favorable schedule, getting to avoid Ohio State, Michigan, and Illinois. Plus, they have the huge benefit of hosting USC, who might be frisky in this Big Ten. One game they'll certainly have circled is October 27th when they go to University Park and take on Penn State a week after their rivalry game against Oregon State. That one seriously could decide the conference, and it's going to be a very tough road test for the Oregon Ducks, something they didn't really have last year, getting to host Ohio State in Eugene. Now they got to go to University Park Beaver Stadium and take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Next up at number 2, I've got the Buckeyes here. They've got a lot of pieces to replace both on and off the field. To be honest with you, they have the best wide receiving core in the nation, no doubt about it, with Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate, and of course, Jeremiah Smith, who's number 4 on the Heisman odds board to win at plus 1,100, the top non-quarterback. They get things going right off the bat, though, hosting the Texas Longhorns and Arch Manning in week 1. They get to host Penn State, but you got to go to Washington, Illinois, and Michigan, which could all be very tough road Big Ten games. All 3 of those teams definitely have you circled on the schedule. And you've got your young QB who's going to have to be able to keep his composure away from Columbus. I'm not sure if he's up to the task, but we'll see. Regardless, the defense should be there for the Buckeyes. And then last but not least, we've got the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think they're going to win the Big Ten. They showed signs of success in the Big Ten championship last season, losing to Oregon, but putting up a fight, putting up plenty of points, and they return nearly everybody. Senior QB Drew Allar is back to lead the Nittany Lions. They got a pair of tandem running backs in Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, both seniors as well, and they got a rock-solid, experienced offensive line, but they do have a brand-new wide receiving core. The problem, the issue has always been pass catching for the Nittany Lions. They can run the ball, no doubt. Drew Allar is a very, very safe, competent quarterback, but he doesn't have any stud pass catchers. Well, this season, he definitely does. Kyrod Hudson comes over from USC, caught 3 touchdowns, 38 catches for 462 yards. Devontae Ross, coming over from Troy, accounted for 35% of the team's receptions, 41% of their yards, and over 52% of their touchdowns, with a stat line of 76, 1,043 yards, and 11 touchdowns. And then Traber Pena comes over from Syracuse. He was one of Kyle McCord's favorite targets last season. He caught 84 passes for nearly 950 yards and 9 touchdowns, led the team there. I think the offense is definitely going to be there for Penn State. We know the defense will be, and so I think they're going to be tough to beat. I get it. James Franklin is still the head coach of this Penn State team. Big game James can't show up, but he's got a very, very experienced offense, very, very experienced defense as well that's ready to lead him there. So I think Penn State gets over the hump and gets a Big Ten championship this year. I think it's their conference to lose if they can get over the hump and beat Ohio State. But my favorite bet, again, in the conference is the Illinois Fighting Illini over 8.5 wins at plus 150. I do think they end up 9-3 at worst if they just handle business. So I'm willing to pay the plus 150 for those wins. That's been our Big Ten picks and preview for the college football season of 2025. We appreciate you stopping by. Check out everything we have to offer at bettingnews.com. Follow us on Twitter and social media at Your Betting News. And follow myself, Nate Hornung, at Shaggy_bets as well for all your sports betting needs. We appreciate you guys as always. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.